Down it goes in towards Billy Byrne with his first touch. Can he score?
Hello and welcome to the Hurling Podcast's Fantasy Hurling Tips for Round 4 video. I'm Garry and I'm joined by the smug Ben. How are you, Ben, apart from being smug?
I'm well aware, Garry, that one swallow doesn't make a summer.
Yeah, well, without further ado, we'll get to the reason why you are so smug, and we'll have a look at our teams, and we'll start with your team. So Ben, if you want, you can talk us through your team here, and there's something very obvious that went well, but bring us through it.
Well, the big one, I wasn't on the tips video a couple of weeks ago, but David Fitzgerald was mentioned, so I had a look, and he came up big time. He scored 2 goals. It's not going to happen every day. It's kind of an outlier, but he had been playing well. He had been scoring, so you have to be happy with that. Finton Burke is another man who did well for me. He is always likely to score sideline. The fact that Joe Canning is gone, he gets to take them, so he can score. Very good hurler too. Joe Cooney is a man, and Darragh Fitzgibbons returned to form. Quite happy with that. Tony Kelly unfortunately didn't play. Donald Burke, as long as he's playing, he's going to get you points, so did very well with him. TJ, I wouldn't have minded switching off captain, but I probably would have moved the captain to Tony Kelly, so probably just as well I didn't. But I didn't want to lose TJ, and I didn't. That the way if you transfer out your captain, you save a transfer. Because if you change your captain normally, so I didn't want to get rid of TJ, and I didn't want to change the captain and lose a transfer that way, so I kept TJ as captain.
I'm well aware, Ben. I'm well aware.
I'm going to be doing, I reckon I'll stick with TJ as captain this week because I want to keep that transfer. Like I have, if you look at my team there, obviously Donald Burke, Stephen Bennett, there's 2 guys in the forwards who are not in the championship anymore. Then Callum Lyons at the back. James Madden, there's 4 not in the championship anymore. Conor Flood is not a starter. He's likely to get a point when he comes on, but he's not a starter. I still want starters in your team. So overall, happy with how it went now, obviously. But David Fitzgerald is the big one. Joe Cooney doing well.
Yeah, who were your 3 transfers in then the last day? David Fitzgerald, Joe Cooney, and Stephen Bennett.
Yeah. Those are the 3. Obviously, Stephen Bennett didn't catch fire, but he's one. I wouldn't regret that decision because you had to have him,
More risky being without someone like Stephen Bennett. Well, to be honest, I think that team is looking quite strong. I know you do have 4 that aren't still in the championship, but everyone is going to have probably 3 or 4. Wait till we see the fires that I have to put out. But all in all, you've got a strong lineup there still with plenty of options with your 3 transfers. We'll go on now and we'll have a look at my team. I had been doing fantastic, but there's a big white triangle here that is part of the big problem that I have. So I suppose I was back in Waterford to be still in the All-Ireland Championship at this stage, and went with my two of my transfers were Jamie Byrne and Stephen Bennett. The 3rd transfer was Conor Mcdonald. Making him captain was another mistake. Now, he could have had a lot more than he did get. He started the Westmeath game with 2 points inside the first 10 minutes. Everyone saw the fact that he should have had a goal against Kilkenny, bar an unbelievable save from Owen Murphy. So he'll be sticking as my captain, I'd imagine, because I've got so many fires to put out. Other than that, I mean, look, I don't mind my goalkeeper not playing because there's less of a chance of getting minus points. Darragh Egan, solid manager. Wexford are going to get to the All-Ireland final anyway, so it's all good having him and having the other 3 Wexford lads there. The problem now is that there's 5 players there between Waterford and Dublin that need to be got rid of, and you can only get rid of 3, and then the goalkeeper as well, but I'm not too worried about that. So yeah, lots of fires. Like you, Ben, I thought about making Tony Kelly captain instead of Conor Mcdonald. I thought he would have been the safe option. Turns out he's the safe option would have been not getting rid of TJ Reid and using my transfer elsewhere. But there's still time. There's still time. Now, when we look at the fixtures for that are included in this transfer window for, we have the Munster final, Leinster final on the 4th and 5th of June. We have the All-Ireland preliminary quarterfinals, which see the Joe McDonough winners and runners-up play Cork and Wexford, respectively. And then on the 18th of June, there's going to be the 2 quarterfinals, which will include the runners-up of the Munster and Leinster final against the winners of the preliminary quarterfinals. So, Ben, what's standing out for you here in terms of teams to target players from?
Now, there's been an influx of players in the game from Kerry and Antrim. They weren't in it before, but I'd just like to let everyone know that this does not, if you pick one of them, it does not include the Joe McDonough final.
Yes.
So it's not to again sound presumptuous. I've been stung before by assuming, victory, but I would be expecting both Wexford and Cork to come through those games. So I'd be looking at, do you see Wexford and Cork winning a quarter final? Then it's 3 games they have, if they can win a quarter final. And if you
mean a minimum of 3 games?
Minimum of 3 games if you see them winning the quarter final, really. And if you pick, Limerick, I'm probably going to get Aaron Gillan. That's in my mind to get him because he's been absolutely flying. He is, himself and Diarmuid Burns are probably neck and neck for Hurler of the Year. But I expect Limerick to beat Clare. And that would mean, I expect Limerick to go all the way to the final. So that would mean they have a maximum of 3 games. Whereas the other teams all have the possibility of playing more games. And you can make those Limerick changes. So in this transfer window, say Limerick, if they win that game, they only have 1 game. Whereas most other teams, I would expect have a possibility of playing 2.
Yeah, for example, you expect Limerick to beat Clare, so a Clare asset is probably better because they're going to have 2 games to Limerick's 1 game.
Yeah, pretty much. And then do you expect Clare to win the quarterfinal and get to a semi? I would have to say, look at quarterfinals. Who do you think the quarterfinal pairings are going to be? And who do you think is going to win those quarterfinals? And get players from those teams in.
Okay, so you're calling Limerick to beat Clare. And what about Kilkenny Galway?
I think Galway are going to win that. So I'd be looking at Kilkenny. Owen Cody is another one that I'm looking at. I know he didn't do much the last day, but he was very tightly marked by Damien Reck. And he's done very well in the game so far. I'm looking at him and obviously looking at Aaron Gillan. But I'm picking Galway to win it. So then it's most likely going to be Kilkenny v Cork. And anything could happen there.
Anything could happen there? What does your gut tell you?
My gut tells me that Cork are going to beat them. That's what I think. They beat them last year in the semi-final, I think. And they beat them in the league only a few months ago. And the way Cork are playing, that's what I'm thinking. Another transfer I'm looking at as well is Mark Coleman now playing out wing back. He's got a couple of points the last couple of games, doing very well. So if I bring in someone in the half back line, it would probably be Mark Coleman.
Yeah, I have my eye on Tim O'Mahony as well because I know he's been coming off the bench the last 2 games, but he's been coming off the bench into the forwards and he's been getting goal chances.
I did think of him as well, but essentially he hasn't started and I don't think he will start.
Yeah. Okay, so you're thinking it's going one of those quarterfinals is going to be Kilkenny and Cork, and you think that Cork might get through that, that would leave the other one in your thinking as another Wexford versus Clare.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm going to have to pick Wexford. I have Conall Flood and I have Rory O'Connor. I'll be leaving Rory O'Connor there. He hasn't hit fire in the championship yet, but he just might. Conall Flood doesn't seem to be starting, so I wouldn't mind getting rid of Connell, but I won't be bothering actually get rid of him because I have, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the players not playing at all. So, it has to be said now. This he's wouldn't be a regular pick for many people, but Simon Donahoe is on a hot scoring streak. He
certainly is.
He has scored in every game bar one, and in a lot of games he's got more than one score, right? So if we look, I think he's 58 points so far. I mean, that's as good as anyone's going to get. So he has to be in with a shout. Like Damien Rick has 50 points, and everyone was talking about the scores he was getting from the backs. And Simon Donahoe has 58. My thinking would be that Wexford's best game the last day, Damien Rick played cornerback and man-marking role. So maybe they might stick to that kind of thing. Not necessarily for the game against Kerry or Antrim. They could. But against most likely Clare or Limerick, they could have him back there as well. You have to consider Simon Donahoe the way he's been scoring there now.
Yeah. The only other back that I'd be looking at, we've kind of mentioned Dave Fitzgerald, Tim O'Mahony. These are the ones that I don't have, obviously. Donahoe and Rick. But Mikey Carey has been consistent for Kilkenny, and he popped up with 2 points against Wexford the last day too. He has been one of their more shining lights this year.
He did very well against Wexford. I jotted down there's 4 defenders that I looked at to get. Actually, sorry, there was 7 I looked at because Barry Nash is a possibility as well. He seems to score in every game. Declan Hannon has been scoring. Kyle Hayes playing in the forwards. I wouldn't be considering Tim O'Mahony because he doesn't start. Pádraig Mannion.
Pádraig Mannion's been popping up with a couple of points.
I'd be looking at Coleman, Carey, Mannion, and probably Kyle Hayes. People were thrilled with their selection of Kyle Hayes early on, and maybe because he hasn't scored in the last couple of weeks, people are forgotten about him. He was injured for 1 game, so maybe it's an option to bring him back in. Obviously, the game thing, maybe you'll wait till the next transfer window to get in Kyle Hayes. But I'll be looking at Coleman. I want to get Simon Donahoe out of. I don't know if it's my heart rule in my head. I just want, he's been on such a streak that I want to bring him in. But maybe I shouldn't think like that.
Yeah, and there's one other potential fixture here, and it's for people who might still have Tipperary assets. There's going to be an All-Ireland Senior Hurling relegation playoff if Kerry beat Antrim in the Joe McDonagh Cup final. Don't know when that will be because Kerry would, if they beat Antrim, then they would need to play Cork, and then it would have to be after that, obviously. Would you recommend?
There's so much given out about that they have to play that fixture. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have to play it.
If Kerry win, that they just allow both teams next year in.
Kerry haven't won it yet, and people are giving out for the last couple of weeks saying that they shouldn't have to play it. It's only a case, I suppose, if you don't know, if you have a choice between getting rid of a Waterford lad and a Tipperary lad who are not in the championship, I suppose get rid of the Waterford lad because Tipperary have a possibility, but it's, shouldn't really be you shouldn't really be hanging on to it for any decent reason, really.
Yeah. And I think you kind of touched on it earlier. While the Kerry and Antrim lads have been added to the game, and there's some some decent options there, and like look what Neil McManus did in the league, and you've got Fionn McHassey for Kerry at wingbacks. I think he scored 6 points from play against Meath. He scored 4 in another game and 2 in another game, but they're most likely only going to have the one game and then be gone again, so it's not really worth it.
No, not at all. It's almost pointless. I think the Joe McDonough final should be included in it. If they're going to bring him in, then include that game.
Yeah, I think including the Joe McDonough would actually make those players an option, but without the Joe McDonough final being included, they're more added because for the sake of it. Right, Ben, so you've talked about some of them. What are your thoughts then on what changes you're going to make at the moment? Donald Burke will be coming out anyway. Who's earmarked?
I'm going to get in Aaron Gillan.
So that's a definite, just because he's going to get to the end in your mind.
Yeah, and because he's playing some unbelievable stuff, Obviously, it's both. So, and then the next two transfers will be like Cork. Cork is a hard one. Like I marked down a lot of Cork players, thinking you could get Horgan. Like he's not playing well, but against Kerry or Antrim, he could light it up and he could get, most likely will get double figures in points. He could get a couple of goals as well.
I think
we won't be getting him, but
yeah, for Cork, I think I'd be more looking at Lehane or even Connolly, who has, been a goal machine since he's been getting the nod in at full forward.
Yep,
which in turn has moved Horgan. In turn, has moved Horgan out to centre forward.
Yeah, I have those down too. Alan Connolly's been doing great. Lehane, yes, even though Lehane has been great, played great, he just in front of for goal chances, he's missed a lot this year. I probably will get him. Maybe
Lehane.
not. I don't know.
So would that be Lehane for Stephen Bennett?
It's probably either Lehane or Owen Cody for me. I'm looking at getting both those guys. So it's going to be Stephen Bennett and Donald Burke going out. And then Gillan. Like Conor Whelan is an option there as well. We didn't even mention him,
He's on my list. He's on my list.
But I already have my 3 Galway, so I won't be getting in Conor Whelan.
Yeah, I've only got the 2 Galway, and I like just Conor Cooney and Conor Whelan that are both on my list there. And even from Kilkenny, there's Adrian Mullen. I mean, TJ is obviously on my list because I don't have him, but Adrian Mullen, I think, is 80 points in 80 fantasy points scored already, like consistently scoring in every game.
Yeah, brilliant player. And we must say now, must give Des Myden the nod. He didn't start the last day, so Parg Walsh, you don't know if he's going to start.
Not an option.
He's not an option. We'll say that. We'll agree with Des for this one.
Yeah, Des, both myself and Des, I think, convinced each other that Conor McDonald was the right option for captain the last day, when the other choices for me were transferring in Conor Cooney or Conor Whelan, which turns out would have been better for the last round. But the less said about that.
I've just made my mind up there now, and it's going to be Gillan and Lehane, considering Lehane has that fixture against one of the Joe McDonough teams where he has another chance, to really rack up the scores. I think Cork.
And you think that Cork will beat Kilkenny?
I think they will, yeah. And what's also been happening is the last 2 games, I think, Horgan has come off after about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And Lehane has taken over on the freeze. So he has that option of getting scores from freeze as well, even if he's not doing it from play. Which he has been.
And then you've got one other transfer in the defence to make, who you've mentioned some of the people you're thinking of. Who's most likely there? Is it going to be your Hart and Donahoe? Or is it going to
God.
be... You can still get another Limerick man because you only have the... Oh, no, you have 2 Limerick men. You can only... So if you get Galan, you can't go and get Kyle Hayes.
Yeah, so it probably won't be Kyle Hayes. Looking there, I only have 1 Cork man, so... Well, I will have 2 Cork men when I get in Lehane, so I'll be able to get in Mark Coleman. So it'll probably be between Mark Coleman and Simon Donahoe. If I knew Damien Reck was going to be playing out in the half back line and not the full back line, it would be Damien Reck. But he's very likely to be a man marking job against him. He does have that nice fixture though. I do expect him to be in the half back line for the game against the Joe McDonough team, but not necessarily the next game. Quite possibly against Clare. He could well likely be following Tony Kelly around the pitch for if Wexford end up playing Clare. And he won't be doing much hurling himself then.
No.
Actually, I'm going to predict that he will be following Tony Kelly around the pitch. So for that reason, I can't decide.
Still time, and look, as always, we'll be waiting to see team sheets for the weekend's games.
100%, yeah, 100%. But the thing about Wexford's team sheet is you kind of know the 6 backs that are going to play, but you don't necessarily know
where they're going to play.
Yeah. So that'll give you nothing really, the Wexford team sheet. And I'd be fairly confident that Mark Coleman's going to be wing back. He'd probably get a couple of points.
Yeah.
I am going heavy, very heavy on Cork there with my transfers. 2 Cork transfers in.
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, that's where I thought about Lehane. I was like there's safe options for me. There's safe options to go TJ Reid for Bennett, Galan for Donald Burke, and then maybe a Dara Fitzgibbon in midfield for Jamie Byrne or Diarmid Fitzgerald instead of Caleb Lyons. And I might do that. But I fell so much further behind. I think I might need to take some risks. But like Lehane seems like a no-brainer because he could score 12 points against the Joe McDonough team. It'll be the Joe McDonough winners that they play. He takes over the frees, as you've already mentioned, from Horgan when he goes off. But I think Cork could. I think Kilkenny could beat Cork. Kilkenny or Galway could beat Cork. I think that they're both. That's just my feeling on it. I think that Cork might only have the 2 games left, which is putting me off getting any Cork assets. But then look, my predictions aren't always right, which is why I've got 3 Waterford men here that I need to get rid of.
Well, you've no guarantee on any team. No matter who you pick, sure, they might only have 2 games left. So. There's 2 in midfield. You don't need to do midfielders, so that's why I don't think you mentioned midfielders. But I have 4 listed here. Dara Fitzgibbon is 1, and he's probably the safest option. Cian Kenny is another. Cian Kenny shot the lights out against Dublin, playing corner forward, kind of coming out. He's down here as a midfielder against Wexford. He didn't do very well, but he was still shooting. I think he hit 3 wides, and he probably should have got 2 of them. So if he's starting the Leinster final, I think he's not a bad option to have. Could get a nice few points in there in midfield. Then Cathal O'Neill, again, I think there might be he might have a knock. We have to see if he's starting. I think if he's starting, he's a great option. But if he's starting, he'd probably be starting centre forward. And if Cian Lynch is back the next day, then that could be Cathal's place gone. So it's another risk. Well, maybe I'll take the risk. And then the last one, I actually can't get him because I already have my 3 extra players, but it's D. O'Keefe, who's he's popping up with a couple of scores in each of the games now. He played a deep role the last day, but with a bit of a license to pop forward when the house is being watched by someone else. I'm thinking now that I need to split, the 3 transfers, because obviously if I can't get Lehane and and Coleman. So then I'll have to either switch it up to put Owen Cody in the forwards and get Coleman, or maybe go for Simon Donahoe maybe, or Mikey Carey in the backs. I know I'm going up and down and picking different players. I've decided this, I've decided that, and then I'm changing. But there's so many options to do. But I think that's one thing. The one thing I'll definitely do. Now I've just decided there that I am gonna. All three players I'm gonna bring in are gonna be from different counties, so I'm not so susceptible to if one of them goes out, then that means I'm out, kind of.
Like I am. Yeah, I mean, thank God for Wexford's barnstorming performance against Kilkenny, because I had manager and three players all from Wexford. And, if Waterford just I got rid of all my tip assets knowing that they were going out, but I got in Waterford ones for them, which didn't do anything. What about Clare? Like, they have a lot of options. I mean, there's Tony Kelly that everyone's going to have. There's David Fitzgerald that a lot of people are going to bring in. But then there's Duggan and O'Donnell as well, and even Ryan Taylor and Galvin.
To me, Duggan would be the option there now.
Yeah.
I think he's an excellent player. And if for whatever reason Tony Kelly goes off, or even if he doesn't take a free, Duggan is an excellent free taker. He's a big option for me now, Duggan. Sorry, he's not an option for me because I've already decided I'm not getting him. But he is a big option for other people who are interested.
If you were giving me advice, is TJ and Galland the no-brainers for the forwards, or is there risks to be taken there? Is Conor Cooney, Tom Monaghan, Colin Mannion, they're all Conor Whelan, all those Galway guys doing big scoring.
Yeah, it depends on who you already have. Like, the way TJ is playing, if you haven't got him, I wouldn't be getting him in. Like,
yeah,
if you have him, I wouldn't be getting rid of him, because I assume there are other fires you have to put out, considering what Waterford, not been there anymore. Or most people would have Donald Burke, so he has to be got rid of as well.
Yeah. Saw a great stat from Will O'Callaghan on Twitter earlier that the top scorer in every Leinster final since 2014 has been either Joe Canning or TJ Reid. And mostly it's been TJ Reid.
Holy God. And you wouldn't bet against him doing it again.
You wouldn't bet against it. Well, it won't be Joe, but you wouldn't bet against it being TJ.
Yeah, God, I didn't know that stat, but that's fair.
Yeah, if I was picking now, I would probably go Gillan, TJ, and Keane Kenny. And that's me thinking that Kilkenny are going to get further than Cork, which is like the other options will be a Dara Fitzgibbon and a Conor Lahan.
As in, you think Kilkenny are going to lose the Leinster final and then beat Cork?
Yeah, I think that the Leinster final is going to be very close. And I think that if Galway or Kilkenny play Cork, they'll beat them, giving them another game. The Leinster final is going to be a Wexford Limerick repeat of 96. That's already, I think everyone knows that already.
I wouldn't argue.
It's the way the rest of the games pan out is the question. Lee Chin, another man. I obviously can't get him in, but is he in your consideration at all?
He's not in my consideration.
Well, not now, because you've already made your decision.
I've already outlined so many people who are in my consideration. And every time you mention someone, I'm just like, oh yeah, I consider him now, but I'm not really. Gillan, Cody, and Lahan are my considerations for the forwards. Lee Chin, obviously, he has to be considered for some people. Is he down as a forward or is he down as a midfielder?
Lee Chin is down as a forward.
Down as a forward.
I think he's already Wexford's highest scoring forward.
Yeah, but that's because he's on frees or whatever. He's obviously going to get a lot of scores from frees. He's not a huge scorer from play, though. He's only going to... He's going to get maybe 1, 2, 3 points from play
Yeah.
in the game. Now, obviously, if you get 3 points from play and you get however many frees, you're doing pretty well. I just think there are bigger possibilities for point scorers out there. Like,
Yeah.
maybe you have to pick a Wexford player. I would be picking Lee Chin ahead of Conor McDonald in there, the way you have it. But
Wait till you see now. Conor will get a hat-trick of goals next week.
God, he could. Like, he was quite unlucky to not end up with 2-2 the other day or against Kilkenny. So one day it will click for him and he'll get them all in.
We'll go on now to have a look at the Nicky Record League. So the last time we looked at this, Colin Brown with Anne's backers was leading it, but he has now been overtaken by Tomas Lally with his Toon Army. And Ben, you have done what you said you wanted to do. You've got up to the first page. You've got up to the top 10. You're in 8th position. You must be happy with that. Just above Patter Maiden.
That was the dream for me now. The big thing, though, is not to be top of that league, though. Big thing to beat me is number 1 in Ferns St. Aidan's. I'm 30 points ahead of Kevin Stafford, and I'm leaving Edward Cullen in my wake. So, quite happy with that.
Yeah. Well, like similar to me, I'm leading the Askamore group as well. So I've dropped down to 26th in the Nicky Record League, but I'm hoping to get back up there.
Just a note on the Fern St. Aidan's League. Big Ben is rock bottom by a good long way. 760 points he has.
760 points. He has been watching these videos. That's a fact.
Yeah. That's not.
I did notice, Ben, you're second in Wexford, which is, that's good going. But you're actually second behind Colin Brown. You're 100 points behind him. Almost.
He's
over
well.
100.
He is doing well, Colin Brown. I don't even know this guy.
He reached out on Twitter. I think he could be worth getting on now for the last video, if he keeps it up.
He does have. He's 4 guys he needs to get rid of. He's Donald Burke and Rian McBride from Dublin, Stephen Bennett from Waterford, and he has Callum Lyons. But he actually not too bad, really, the transfer he has to make. Because he has Kelly, he has Galani, he has Reid, he's Rory O'Connor. He had Davy Fitzgerald, he had Pádraig Mannion and Mikey Carey, who we spoke about.
Yeah, and he's got a free shot at captain because his captain was Donald Burke. So when he gets rid of Donald, he's got a free shot there to put it on whoever he wants. That's an interesting one. I wonder will he go Tony Kelly, seeing as Tony Kelly likes to score a lot of points against Limerick.
Be an interesting shoot. I reckon he will go Tony Kelly. That's my prediction.
Mine too. Anyway, Ben, that's some great tips. I think that you've given some great insights.
I'm the expert now, am I? One good week.
You're the expert now. Yeah, well, who wants to listen to my tips?
We're not giving tips. We are giving possible solutions, No,
it says it there. It says it, the Hurling Podcast's fantasy tips.
Oh, sorry. Take our tips. Get in Cillian Doyle. He's
too late for Cillian. He would have been a good shout.
I'm recommending Colin Brown to get in Cillian Doyle.
What I've taken from doing these videos is a lot of learnings for next year.
A lot of learnings for next year.
Well,
that's all you can do. Every day is school day.
Every day is a school day. So thank you, Ben, and thank you all for taking the time to look at our video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There's some nice videos of some actual hurling action down there too, if you want to go have a look. And go follow the podcast, where we talk about the games. And the next one will be next week, previewing Wexford's upcoming preliminary quarterfinal game.
Thanks, everyone.
Down it goes in towards Billy Byrne with his first touch. Can he score?